What's up, legends? Welcome back to Business Legends. I'm Alex. Real quick, before we jump in, I've got an insane story for you today. Picture this, it's 1941 and Disney is drowning in nearly $3 million of debt. Their stock has crashed from $25 to just $4. Half their animators are on strike. They're literally making propaganda films for the military just to keep the lights on. But what happened next changed entertainment history forever. This is that story. Look, everyone knows Disney as this unstoppable entertainment empire worth over $200 billion today. But here's what most people don't know. Walt Disney went bankrupt with his first animation studio. He had his biggest character stolen from him. And the company almost died multiple times before Mickey Mouse saved the day. This is the real story of how a farm boy from Missouri built the most magical company on Earth. Let's go back to 1901. Walt Disney is born in Chicago, the fourth of 5 kids. His dad, Elias, total hardass, allegedly abusive, constantly failing at business, moving the family around trying to make ends meet. Young Walt escapes into drawing. It's the only thing that makes sense in his chaotic world. By the time Walt's a teenager, his older brothers have already run away from home to escape their father. Walt follows suit at 16, lying about his age to become an ambulance driver in World War I. When he comes back, he's got this burning desire to make it as an artist. 1920, Walt's working at a commercial art studio in Kansas City when he meets WWII. This guy's a genius animator, and they instantly click. They're both dreamers, both broke, both convinced they can revolutionize entertainment. So they do what any rational people would do. They quit their jobs and start their own animation company. They call it Laugh-O-Gram Studios. Walt's 20 years old, full of ambition, zero business sense. They're making these short cartoons based on fairy tales, and honestly, they're pretty good. Local theaters love them. But here's the problem, Walt's a perfectionist. He keeps pouring money into making each cartoon better, more elaborate, more expensive. By 1923, Laugh-O-Gram is bleeding cash. Walt's eating cold beans for dinner, sleeping in the studio, dodging creditors. He creates this innovative film called Alice's Wonderland, mixing live action with animation. Revolutionary stuff. But it's too late. July 1923, Walt Disney files for bankruptcy. He's 21 years old, and already a failure. But failure doesn't stop Walt Disney. It just pisses him off. With $40 in his pocket, Walt takes a train to Hollywood. His brother Roy is there recovering from tuberculosis, and Walt crashes in his uncle's garage. He's got nothing except this half-finished Alice film, and a dream that won't die. Then, something crazy happens. A distributor in New York named Margaret Winkler sees the Alice film and loves it. She offers Walt a contract for a whole series. October 16, 1923, Walt and Roy scrape together every penny they have and open the Disney Brothers cartoon studio. They rent the back of a real estate office for $10 a month. This is it. The beginning of Disney. Walt brings WWII out to California, and they start cranking out Alice comedies. The films are successful enough that by 1926, they can afford a real studio on Hyperion Avenue. Things are looking up. Walt even gets married to one of his employees, Lillian Bounds. But then Walt makes a decision that almost destroys everything. See, by 1927, Walt's tired of the Alice series. He wants to do something fully animated, no live action. So he creates a new character, Oswald the Lucky Rabbit. This rabbit is smart, mischievous, popular with audiences. Universal Pictures loves it. They're distributing the Oswald cartoons, and money's finally flowing in. February 1928, Walt goes to New York to negotiate a better deal with his distributor, Charles Mintz. He's expecting a raise. Instead, Mintz drops a bomb. Not only is he cutting Walt's pay, but he's already stolen most of Walt's animators. Oh, and that contract Walt signed? Universal owns Oswald, not Disney. Walt's devastated. He's lost his character, his team, everything he's built. On the train ride back to California, he's basically starting from zero. Again. But here's where the magic happens. Walt starts sketching. He draws a mouse. Shows it to Lillian. He wants to call it Mortimer Mouse. Lillian thinks that name sucks. She suggests Mickey. Mickey Mouse is born. Walt and Ub lock themselves in the studio. They secretly create 2 Mickey cartoons plain, Crazy and Gallopin' Gaucho, but there's a problem. These are silent films, and this new thing called talkies just hit with the jazz singer. Nobody wants silent cartoons anymore. So Walt does something insane. He decides to make the first synchronized sound cartoon, Steamboat Willie. He records the sound effects himself, uses a metronome to sync everything perfectly. It costs a fortune they don't have. But when Steamboat Willie premieres on November 18, 1928, it's a sensation. Audiences lose their minds. They've never seen anything like it. A cartoon that talks, that makes music. Mickey Mouse becomes an overnight phenomenon. Here's the part nobody talks about. Walt can't find anyone to distribute Mickey at first. Bankers and distributors reject him over 300 times. 300 times. They all think synchronized sound in cartoons is a stupid gimmick. Walt has to mortgage everything, beg for loans, basically bet his entire future on a mouse. Finally, Pat Powers agrees to distribute it. And boom, Mickey Mouse saves Disney. The 1930s become Disney's first golden age. The Three Little Pigs in 1933 is massive. The song, Who's Afraid of the Big Bad Wolf, becomes the anthem of the Great Depression. Mickey Mouse clubs pop up everywhere. By 1935, Mickey's getting 35,000 fan letters a month. But Walt's not satisfied with shorts. He wants to make the first full-length animated feature film. Everyone thinks he's lost his mind. They call it Disney's Folly, a 90-minute cartoon. Who's gonna sit through that? Walt doesn't care. He mortgages the studio, borrows against future revenues, risks absolutely everything on Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. The budget balloons from $250,000 to $1.5 million, an insane amount for 1937. His animators are working 20-hour days. Walt's so obsessed with perfection that he makes them redo scenes dozens of times. He acts out every character himself, showing animators exactly how Snow White should move, how the dwarfs should walk. The man is possessed. December 21, 1937, Snow White premieres. The audience gives it a standing ovation. It makes $8 million, the highest-grossing film ever at that point. Walt Disney just changed cinema forever. But here's where everything goes wrong. Walt immediately puts all the profits into building a massive new studio in Burbank. 51 acres, state-of-the-art, 4 times bigger than they need. He's also got multiple films in production: Pinocchio, Fantasia, Bambi, each one more expensive and ambitious than the last. Pinocchio comes out in February 1940. It's a masterpiece. It wins Oscars. Critics love it. And it bombs hard. Cost $2.6 million to make, brings in less than $2 million. Why? World War II just started in Europe. Disney's lost its entire foreign market overnight. Fantasia is even worse. Walt spends 4 times his budget trying to create this high-art fusion of animation and classical music. Special sound systems, artistic experimentation, it's decades ahead of its time. And audiences hate it. The film loses the equivalent of $15 million in today's dollars. By 1941, Disney's in full crisis mode. Nearly $3 million in debt. Stock price craters from $25 to $4. Bank of America is breathing down their necks demanding cost cuts. Then the animators go on strike. May 29, 1941, Art Babbitt, one of Disney's top animators, gets fired for union activities. Half the staff walks out. They're picketing outside the studio with signs saying Disney unfair. Walt takes it personally. He genuinely thought his studio was a creative paradise. Now his own artists are calling him a tyrant. Walt's having a nervous breakdown. The strike lasts 5 weeks, tears the studio apart. Relationships are destroyed that never heal. The old Disney magic, it's gone. Then Pearl Harbor happens. December 1941, the U.S. enters World War II. Within hours, 500 Army troops occupy Disney Studios. They're there to protect a nearby Lockheed aircraft plant, but they literally take over the parking lots, convert sound stages into military workshops. The government approaches Walt with a deal: make propaganda films for $90,000. It's humiliating. The man who created Snow White is now making training videos for soldiers. But Disney needs the money desperately. For the next 4 years, Disney becomes a propaganda machine. Der Führer's face with Donald Duck mocking Hitler. Military training films. Insignia designs for army units. It keeps them alive, barely. Bambi finally releases in 1942 after 5 years in production. It's beautiful, emotional, everything a Disney film should be. And it loses $200,000. By 1944, Disney owes Bank of America $4 million. They're basically bankrupt. There's this famous meeting where Amadeo Giannini, the founder of Bank of America, tells his executives, "I've been watching the Disney's pictures closely because I knew we were lending them money far above the financial risk. But they're good this year, they're good next year, and they're good the year after. You have to relax and give them time." That's the only reason Disney survives, one banker who believes in them when nobody else does. After the war, Disney's in survival mode. They can't afford to make expensive features, so they release package films, basically collections of shorts strung together. Make mine music fun and fancy-free. They're cheap, forgettable, but they keep the lights on. Walt knows they need a real hit or they're done. So he puts everything into one last roll of the dice, Cinderella. Here's the thing about Cinderella. Walt hates how they have to make it. Cheaper animation, rushed production, none of his usual perfectionism. But they have no choice. It's this or Bankruptcy. 1950, Cinderella releases. And it's magic. Audiences go crazy. It makes $8 million, saves the entire company. Disney's back from the dead. But Walt's already thinking bigger. He's tired of just making movies. He wants to build something nobody's ever seen before. A theme park where families can step inside the Disney stories. Everyone thinks he's insane. Again. Amusement parks in the 1950s are seedy, dirty places. Walt's talking about a 160-acre wonderland with themed lands, cutting-edge technology, immersive storytelling. The board of directors wants nothing to do with it. So Walt does what Walt does, he goes around them. Creates a separate company called WWII Enterprises. Funds it with his own money, takes out loans against his life insurance. When that's not enough, he makes a deal with ABC Television. Disney will produce a TV show if ABC helps fund the park. Disneyland, the TV show becomes a massive hit, and it funds Disneyland the park. But the opening? Total disaster. July 17, 1955 opening day at Disneyland. It's 100 degrees. The asphalt is literally melting women's high heels. Counterfeit tickets mean twice as many people show up as expected. Rides break down. Food runs out. Water fountains don't work because of a plumber's strike. The press calls it Black Sunday. But Walt fixes it. He always does. Within months, Disneyland is the most successful theme park in history. By 1965, it's welcomed 50 million visitors. Walt's final dream is even bigger, an experimental prototype community of tomorrow. Epcot, an actual functioning city of the future. But December 15, 1966, lung cancer takes Walt Disney at 65. He never sees it built. Roy Disney takes over, makes sure Walt Disney World opens in 1971. But after Roy dies that same year, the company loses its way. The 1970s and early 80s are rough. Forgettable movies, declining park attendance, hostile takeover attempts. 1984, Disney's in crisis again. Michael Eisner comes in as CEO with Frank Wells and Jeffrey Katzenberg. They transform everything. The Little Mermaid in 1989 kicks off the Disney Renaissance. Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, The Lion King. Disney animation is back on top. Under Eisner, Disney becomes a corporate juggernaut. They buy ABC, ESPN, expand internationally. But by the 2000s, Eisner's lost the magic. Animation struggles. He's fighting with everyone, including Walt's nephew Roy E. Disney. 2005, Bob Iger takes over as CEO. First thing he does, repairs the relationship with Steve Jobs and buys Pixar for $7.4 billion. People think he's overpaying. Then he buys Marvel for $4 billion in 2009. Then Lucasfilm for $4 billion in 2012. Then 21st Century Fox for $71 billion in 2019. Suddenly Disney owns everything. Mickey Mouse, The Avengers, Star Wars, The Simpsons. They launch Disney Plus in 2019, get 100 million subscribers in 16 months. The parks expand globally. Shanghai Disneyland is printing money. Today, Disney's worth over $200 billion. They've got 233,000 employees worldwide, dominate streaming, own the biggest franchises in entertainment. Bob Iger came back as CEO in 2022 to navigate post-pandemic challenges, streaming wars, changing consumer habits. It's a long way from a bankrupt kid eating beans in Kansas City. Alright, 3 quick takeaways from Disney's story. First, your biggest failure might become your greatest strength. Losing Oswald forced Walt to create Mickey Mouse. Second, believe in your vision when literally nobody else does. 300 rejections didn't stop Walt Disney. Third, sometimes you need to bet everything. Walt mortgaged his future for Snow White, Disneyland, and his dreams. Look, every single company we cover started with someone who decided to bet on themselves. Maybe that's the real lesson here. If this story fired you up, hit subscribe and ring that bell. Drop a comment below. Which company should I cover next? I read every single one. Until next time, keep building your legend. Peace.